Why does it keep cutting off early? I have no idea why. I mean, I got no idea if the full video is playing or not, but oh, and of course I was a dumbass, and did I actually check whether or not the audio was working? Yeah, yep, okay, audio's working. Alright. Alright, tell you what, let's get moving. I'll tell you about my day, and then we'll start the stream. As in, we'll start the court feed. Because today was a bit of a day, I'm not gonna lie. I was not aware of it, but we had our local governor in town today, our premier, which the nerd. She's not very popular with a lot of the rural towns right now, because basically she's imposing an additional tax on all properties, which she's calling the Emergency Fire Services Levy, something along those lines. Basically making it so that everyone's property taxes are going to go up by anywhere between a few dollars up to $10,000. And believe it or not, obviously that affects farmers because they have, given that it's based on acreage, it affects the farmers quite a bit more. Which, surprise, surprise, a lot of the farmers around here are volunteer firefighters. But what she said is that the reason for that tax is basically to try and beef up emergency services, pay the firefighters more money and all that sort of stuff. Except here's the rub. Despite the fact that all the rural properties are receiving this ridiculously high tax, it's only going to the Melbourne Metropolitan Fire Brigades. It's not going to anyone in the CFA. So basically, you've got a whole bunch of firefighting volunteers that are now being taxed so that other people in metropolitan areas can be paid more. Which, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely disgusting and pathetic. And not really a big fan of that. Mind you, I'm not a fan of Jacinta Allen anyway. The Labor government, the left-wing government here in Victoria, has been, well, I mean, they sort of, I want to stop short of saying they're corrupt, but that's my own personal opinion anyway. So anyway, she was in town. So outside my office for probably 2 hours, there were between 15 and 20 fire trucks just doing laps up and down the street. Which of itself was really impressive. But when the sirens were going, I was sitting there thinking there is no way in hell I'm going to get any work done. So I will just say this I will say this once very clearly and very plainly. Jacinta, it very much needs to be fairer. If you're going to be taxing people, the funds should be spread around based on geographical location. That's just the long and the short of it, is my opinion. If the locals are being charged, the money should be going to the local firefighters. Now, let's pick up our coverage of the Karen Reid trial after I've had that little mini rant. Dr. Russell is still on the stand. I don't believe it'll be for much longer, though. And we'll basically pick up right where we left off.
Prescribe ice.
Oh, yes.
So if a person was lying prone in the cold winter on the front yard on the dirt and was being covered by snow, sub 32 degrees, and the body temperature were to drop from 96.8 to about 80 degrees, would that have a similar effect to ice on the area that may bruise?
Not exactly. You want me to explain?
I do.
Okay, yes. So as the snowflakes fall, yes, there will be a gradual lowering of the body temperature and gradual effect on the body. Now, if as opposed to in the ER or in a medical setting, if if I or another practitioner, and by the way, nurses and nurse practitioners and PAs also treat dog bite wounds. But if another practitioner, a practitioner gives the person an ice pack, they get immediate coldness and immediate significant change in temperature to that area.
You're walking into a trap here.
Assume the weather is so cold that the cell phone battery on someone's iPhone begins to plummet regularly in degrees.
I have no idea.
Objection, Your Honor. The objection system.
Thank you. When you came to your conclusion, considering what you see in this picture, and Attorney Alisi was asking you about fragments from a broken taillight, did you know or consider?
Look, I know it's an improper objection, but if I was a lessee at this point, I'd be like, Your Honor, objection, he's doing that on purpose. I mean, if the witnesses are allowed to be snarky about their names, I don't see why a lessee can't. It'd be like someone calling me Gleister or Glacier in court over and over and over again, which, to be fair, has happened, and I did get a little bit pissy. But in that instance, the judge actually corrected them because I was being so blatantly obvious about it.
That Mr. O'Keefe, sometime around when he incurred these wounds, had a piece of glass stuck in his nose.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Finally, Dr. Russell, you said during your differential diagnosis, you consider information, you either weigh it, accept it, or you distinguish it and you disregard it, correct?
Yes, generally.
During your differential diagnosis, you've referred to a number of different people studies, things that you haven't done yourself, but you've looked at other people's efforts. One of the things you looked at was the deputy medical examiner from the Forensic Pathology Investigations Division of the Armed Forces, a person by the name of John C. Walsh, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow that.
Of course you are, Bev.
Would you like me to ask that again, Dr. Russell?
No, you don't have to ask it. I read that report, yes.
And John C. Walsh is a doctor, correct?
Yes, that's what it says.
And do you have any understanding that he works with the Forensic Pathology Investigations Division of the Armed Forces?
Yes, and therefore his practice may be limited in scope.
Well, you are trying to qualify what he doesn't do. Do you know if his practice is limited in scope?
Typically, the medical examiners that work for the armed forces often have a specific practice that is limited in scope.
Do you know anything about Mr. Walsh and his practice?
No.
Why do you find the need to try to undermine the extent of his authority before you know anything? Why is that important?
Objection.
Sustained.
You don't know what his scope and practice is, do you?
No, but I always look at where the person works that writes the report in terms of physicians and what their possible experiences are. They work in a medical examiner's office in Alaska or Hawaii or a big city or a little town. I look at those things.
When you considered his opinions after his review of these materials, did you consider when he offered in his report that multiple abrasions ranging in size from 2 to 3 millimeters up to 7 centimeters were documented on the decedent's right arm?
Yes.
These injuries do not photographically appear to be, nor are described as puncture bite wounds, and thus are highly unlikely to be the result of an animal bite attack. The abrasions are non-specific. Abrasions occur as the body moves over a blunt or rough surface such as a skinned knee. Did you read his report and consider it?
I did. However, I don't know if he's ever had any experience with dog bites examinations. So I had to consider that and weigh it.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Russell, there were questions with regard to highlighting of articles. Did I determine which parts were to be highlighted, or did I merely perform the function of highlighting the parts you wanted me to highlight because you didn't have a highlighting function with you traveling from California?
That is correct. It's the second one.
With regard to these articles, you mentioned a methodology in connection with them.
Okay, so I gather what they did was that they were corresponding over the phone, and he asked, or she said that she wanted certain parts to be highlighted, and so he did it in like Adobe Acrobat, like DC Pro or whatever. I honestly was expecting him to say, was I the one that highlighted it because you were not holding a highlighter at the time that we were having the conversation? That's honestly where I was expecting that to go.
in pattern recognition methodology. Was it the purpose of citing this article to say that they're just like this situation, or was the purpose to say that there is a methodology in the literature to determine how to determine whether a wound is from a dog?
Objection.
Sustained is to the form.
Dr. Russell, what is the purpose? Let's just start with the Demunic article that was talked about, because these articles were discussed. What was the purpose of you citing to those articles?
The purpose was to identify that pattern recognition is an important component in identifying wounds, and particularly in dog bite wounds. It did not mean that the victim had to have every single characteristic that was listed. And it just was focusing on things to look for and the patterns. It was not just that there's one individual wound that's going to be diagnostic, but that there are patterns for the physician to look for.
In terms of Attorney Brennan asked you, and so now with regard to the
Unpopular opinion, it is one thing that I don't like about Alessi, though. He knows what he's talking about, but he's got this habit of going off on tangents in the middle of questions that would arguably either make them compound or, at worst, a little bit difficult to understand and follow his headspace, like his train of thought. And I'm thinking that part of that might be why she hasn't been able to provide the answers that he was very clearly trying to lead her to. Like, don't get me wrong, as an attorney, and I'd say most of you would feel the same, you can sort of follow his train of thought. But you got to remember, being up onto the stand does add a level of pressure, and especially if you've been listening to Brennan question you for a period of time as well. So I do think that might be something that Alessi could probably work on. Just my own personal opinion.
Pollock article. In terms of the Pollock article, is there any discussion in this article about whether the spectrum of injuries to which you can apply the mechanism of and the methodology, is there anything in there about whether the pattern of injuries can be diverse or whether they're all the same? Does Pollock speak to that?
He does.
And what does Pollock say about whether or not the spectrum of possible injury forms when you apply this methodology can be diverse? What does he say?
Well, he mentions about the actual surface of the body that is impacted. If there's any curvature to that surface, if there's any structures underneath that would affect the bite, those are, and if there was material or textiles or fabric that were in between the bite and the skin, and there were other factors too.
Okay, thank you. Now, lastly, what I'd like to cover is Attorney Brennan discussed the Dr. Walsh. May I approach, Your Honor?
Okay. Did you show Mr. Brennan?
He's the one who gave me it.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. So may I hand it?
Yes.
Did you show Mr. Brennan? He's the one that gave it to me, Your Honor. Sorry, but I didn't need to laugh as loud as I
Yes,
did.
just
That
step back a
caught
little
me off guard. Good morning,
Dr.
Malin.
Russell, what I would like to do is to give the jury a fair
Objection.
I'll withdraw that.
Commentary and that be heard.
Why don't you bring the reports over?
Sidebar. Celine Dion. Be interested to see how this line of questioning goes.
Yeah, proceed, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Russell, I am handing you this letter from Dr. Walsh. And what I am going to do, and you just tell me if I do it correctly, I'm just going to read 2 paragraphs, okay? And you just tell me if I'm reading it correctly. In totality, the injuries documented in the autopsy report and photographs are non-specific and may be the result of a variety of different mechanisms. No additional information was provided regarding the possible circumstances or events surrounding the death. The absence of additional information prohibits the attribution of injuries and contribution of findings to a specific underlying cause of death. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you, Dr. Russell.
All right, Dr. Russell, you are all set.
Thank you.
I'm going to have this marked for identification.
R, ready?
Thank you.
R. Getting closer.
And the next witness is who?
Sorry,
Who's the next witness?
if I may, Your Honor.
Yes, just tell me the name because I need to know whether we need to go to sidebar first.
Aussie Barrows.
Okay, thank you. Jackson, you are all set. All right, Mr. Jackson, you are all set.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon, sir.
Could you please state your full name, spell your last name for the jurors, please?
Nicholas Barrows, Barros,
And where do you currently work?
the town of Dighton Police Department,
How long have you worked for the Dighton Police Department, sir?
since 2011.
And what's your position there currently?
Currently, I'm a sergeant.
What's your duty assignment as a sergeant? What do you do?
I supervise the 4 to midnight shift.
We'll get to that in a little bit more detail in just a second. A couple more foundational questions. How long have you been a police officer altogether?
Since 2011, so going 14 years.
And what education and training and background do you have that qualifies you to do your duties as a sergeant, a supervisor at the Dighton Police Department?
I completed the police academy. I hold a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I've been to many trainings as a police officer and as a supervisor.
When did you get your bachelor's degree?
2012.
Is the Dighton Police Department an autonomous police department for the city? In other words, is it a branch of, say, for instance, Massachusetts State Police, or is it an autonomous department?
It's on its own.
Okay. It's not in any way connected to the Canton Police Department, I presume?
Correct.
Is it in any way connected to the Massachusetts State Police
It
Department?
is not.
As a supervisor, are part of your duties to oversee subordinate officers in their daily fare, whatever that may be?
Yes,
Does that include anything having to do with crime scene investigation,
to an extent.
witness interviews?
No, that would be the detective bureau.
What about working and coordinating with detectives?
To an extent.
Collection of evidence or working with detectives as they collect evidence?
They would collect evidence.
Maintaining crime scene protocols, things of that nature?
Correct.
All right.
Time
As
for my
a sergeant
coke.
with the Dighton Police Department, are you a trained observer?
I am.
Would you consider all of your subordinates, the patrol officers, day-to-day officers, are they also trained observers?
They are.
Is that part of policing?
It is.
Describe that a little bit for the jurors so we understand.
We are in the police academy. We're told to watch everything. It's our heads on a swivel. We are always looking because we don't know what the unknown is.
When you say you don't know, is it true that you don't necessarily know what might become relevant later that may be needed in court?
Correct.
I want to draw your attention to January of 2022, a few years ago. January 29th, 2022, did you have you personally, officer, did you have any personal relationship with the Canton Police Department?
I did not.
Did you have any personal relationship with a trooper from the Massachusetts State Police named Michael Proctor?
I did not.
Do you have any relationship with a person by the name of Brian Higgins, an ATF agent?
I did not.
Do you have any
Yeah, well-
relationship with a Boston police officer known as Brian Albert?
I did not.
So he's a
Did you know
completely
any of the
independent
witnesses or
officer.
individuals involved in an ongoing investigation related to the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe?
I did not.
On January 29th, 2022, did you receive some sort of a call to respond to a particular location? I don't want the address of the location. We'll get to that in a second. Did you receive some sort of a call in the afternoon?
I did.
Describe that for the jurors, please.
Around 2:30 in the afternoon, I received a call from the troopers assigned to the Norfolk District County DA's office in regards to a vehicle that was at a residence in the town of Dighton.
What were you asked to do? Why did you get that call?
The troopers said that they were coming into my jurisdiction, and as a courtesy, they wanted me to respond with them.
Is that sort of normal protocol? If you go into somebody else's jurisdiction, you let them know?
Yes.
So that was not necessarily unusual.
No.
About what time did you receive that first call?
The first call was around 2:30 in the afternoon.
Was there are logs kept of those kinds of things? If you get a call, you respond to the
Yes.
location?
Yes.
At some point after you received that first call, did you receive any other call specifying a time of arrival for the MSP troopers, anything like that?
I did.
Describe that for us.
I got a second call around 3 p.m. From Trooper Michael Proctor stating that he was about 10 minutes away from the address in Dighton.
At the point that you spoke with Michael Proctor, had you ever spoken to him in your professional or personal capacity ever before?
Never.
Did you know the name? Did you know who he was?
I did not.
Complete stranger.
Complete stranger.
What time did you actually arrive at the residence?
I arrived at the residence, I believe it was 3:27 p.m.
Sergeant Barros, I don't want the address, cameras are rolling. Did you respond specifically to a residence in the city of Dighton?
Yes,
Did you at that time know who lived at that residence, who resided there?
I did.
How did you know that?
Early in the shift, when I came on at 8 a.m., the midnight shift, the outgoing shift, had told me that a resident of Dighton at that address had called looking for a ride to Brockton Hospital.
Who did you know at that time, or who did you believe at that time to live at the address that you are now responding to?
William Reed.
That was Reed, R-E-A-D?
Correct.
Okay. Did you know anything about his daughter at that time, or did you just know the name William Reed?
I just knew William Reed, the name.
At the time that Michael Proctor called you, did he say anything about what his intentions were once he arrived at the location?
Yes, his intention was to retrieve a vehicle that he said was involved in a homicide.
Did he specifically say to you at 3 o'clock-ish in the afternoon, he intended to seize the vehicle?
I believe the first phone call, that was his intention.
Meaning all the way back to 2:30?
30 is when he first called me and said that they were coming to Dighton to retrieve a vehicle that that occurred in a homicide in Canton.
And you understood that to mean what? Retrieve a vehicle?
Seize.
Thank you. What was your role once you arrived at the scene at the Reed?
So at that point, by 2:30 the next day, Proctor's already telling people that that car was involved in a homicide, and the inference there is that Karen Reed's guilty, and that he's not looking into anybody else.
Household.
My role was Trooper Michael Proctor asked me to facilitate a tow to tow that vehicle.
Was that a private tow company?
Yes.
And when you say facilitate a tow, what does that mean?
He asked who we used for towing vehicles, and during that period of time, it was Diamond Towing.
Did Diamond Towing ultimately show up, a representative of that
They did.
tow company with a tow truck?
Correct.
A flatbed?
Yes.
Who was with Trooper Proctor when you arrived at the scene?
Sergeant Buchanan.
Had you ever met Sergeant Buchanan before?
Never.
Did you know him?
Nope.
Do you know him professionally or personally?
Never.
Had you ever spoken to him?
Never.
Ever? I'm so sorry. It's getting late in the day. And I guess I'm going too fast. Sorry, my fault. Let's start that just a little bit slower. Did you know him?
No.
Had you ever spoken to him before?
No.
Had you ever heard his name before?
No.
No relationship whatsoever?
None.
Same with Trooper Proctor?
Correct.
Once you arrived at the residence, did you have an opportunity to see the vehicle that was the focus of Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan's attention?
Yes. Once I arrived and I parked my cruiser at the end of the driveway, I observed a black Lexus SUV in the driveway.
What were you driving?
I was driving a Ford F-150 police cruiser.
A police cruiser that's a Ford F-150?
Correct.
They have those?
Yes.
Cool.
Nice.
Were you in full uniform?
Full uniform.
Gun, badge, the whole works?
The whole works.
Did you ever go inside the house?
Briefly.
What was the circumstance of going inside the house?
I went inside to let the troopers know that the tow truck operator was there. And I also went in to ask how we're going to get the tow truck into the driveway because there was about a foot of snow.
Okay. That sort of answers my next question. Did you see whether or not Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan actually did go inside the residence?
Yes, they did.
For the bulk of the time that they were in the residence, where were you?
Outside the residence.
Were you with the black SUV?
I was in the garage speaking to the defendant's mother.
The defendant's mom?
Yes.
Janet? Okay.
Yes.
Where was the SUV at this point?
In the driveway.
Did you have an opportunity to see the SUV?
I did.
Did you walk all the way around it?
Not all the way around.
Did you see the rear end of it?
I did.
Did you make note of the rear end of it?
Yes.
How long would you say you were at the location in a position to observe the rear end of that SUV? 2 minutes, 20 minutes, something in between? Longer?
I would say not the entire time that I was there, but a good amount of time.
More than a glance?
Yes.
This is the afternoon of January 29th, 2022, correct?
Correct.
Before the vehicle had been seized formally by Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan, correct?
Correct.
Did you observe anything of note about the rear end of that black SUV?
Yes, I noted in a report that there was damage to the taillight,
Can you describe for the jury, by the way, which taillight are we talking about?
the right rear taillight.
Can you describe for the jurors what you noted in terms of the damage to the right rear taillight?
I noted that the report said that there was right rear damage to that taillight.
When you say damage, Have you ever described that damage previously?
I have.
Can you tell us what that
Yep.
description is?
There was, it was damaged. The taillight was damaged, but there was a crack missing, but it was not completely damaged.
When you say there was a crack, do you mean there was a piece missing?
A piece was missing.
Can you describe for the jurors kind of what that piece looked like, how big it was, how small, the shape, as you call it?
The piece was about maybe this big,
Is that maybe the size of a dollar bill, maybe 6 inches?
6 inches.
And how wide?
Maybe that wide, maybe 3 inches, 2 inches, somewhere in there.
I want to show you a photo. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would like to show Exhibit 13. It's been previously marked. Do you see what's depicted in this photograph?
I do.
What does that appear to be, just generally?
The right rear tail light,
Of what?
the Lexus SUV.
Is that consistent with the black Lexus SUV that you saw at the Reed residence?
That was the black Lexus. That was not the tail light the day I was there.
Can you do me a favor, Mr. Wolk? With the court's permission, could we zoom in on the right rear tail light, please?
Okay.
Do you see the condition of that tail light as it's depicted in this photo?
I do.
Sergeant Barrows, is this the condition of the right rear tail light when you showed up at the Reed household at around 3:15 in the afternoon on January 29th, 2022?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
That tail light is completely smashed out.
damn!
Does it appear that there are additional pieces of taillight that are removed from this taillight condition than when you saw it at the Reed residence?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Of course. Describe specifically, other than the fact that it's different, describe in detail for the jurors what is different about this taillight as it's photographed here.
That middle section was intact when I was there. Towards that right side where that large chunk is, that's what was missing.
I'm going to hand you
What?
pointer. If you can, there's 2 displays, one monitor.
So, a police officer completely unattached, completely uninvolved with Canton PD or the state troopers is saying that the state that the tail light was in when it arrived at the Sally Port was completely different to what it was when he saw it at 3 o'clock that day. Absolutely not. Wow. All right, so for those that were watching and saying, oh, well, you know what, people are just ridiculous for believing conspiracy theories and that sort of thing, what do you got to say for yourselves now? Because either the conspiracy theory is that a completely unrelated police officer is willing to sit on the stand and willing to perjure himself and lie and implicate Canton PD, or Canton PD members of the McAlbert family are lying about what was involved with the damage to the rear tail light. One of the conspiracy theories would have to be true. You tell me which one it is. Damn.
Right in front of you and one to your right. If you could use the one to your right, it's a little easier on the jurors. Describe what's different about that taillight.
Can you see that? So this area was intact. This is what I saw was missing here.
May I approach?
Yes.
If the entire taillight had been broken out as it's depicted in this photograph, would you have made note of that?
Sustained.
Do you believe you would remember if the taillight, well, let me ask it a different way. The piece that you saw missing, but not completely damaged, is the reason that you use the phrase not completely damaged to highlight the fact that there was still more taillight attached to the vehicle that is depicted in this photo.
Sustained.
There's better ways to answer,
take this
Jackson. Don't fumble this. I'm going to get mad at you.
As you sit here and recall back to that, your observations, and you observed this for over the course of how long would you say? How many minutes?
Probably 20 minutes or so.
You actually wrote a report about this, correct?
Correct.
And you documented your observations, correct?
Correct.
In your documented observations, did you use the phrase cracked but not completely damaged?
I did not.
Sustained.
You've testified previously,
I have.
about a year ago.
Yes.
Did you use the phrase cracked but not completely damaged then?
The objection sustained, Mr. Jackson.
What the
Ultimately,
fuck, man?
Was the black Lexus SUV towed and cleared from the scene?
It was.
Is it your responsibility or part of your responsibility to log the time that things like this happen? Like, for instance, the SUV is taken away?
When I cleared from the scene, yes.
What time was that when you cleared the scene?
I believe it was 4:17 p.m.
Suffice it to say that SUV was not seized at a later time, correct?
Correct.
It was not seized at 5:30 p.m.?
No.
4:17. So
I'd like
there's
to show you
over
another,
an hour that they had
exhibit,
access
if I
to
could.
and they're lying.
This is Exhibit 105. Do you recognize this scene generally?
I do.
Do you recognize it as being, what do you recognize as being?
This is the Reed residence.
Do you see some vehicles in that still shot on the video?
I do.
Describe what you see.
That tow truck is diamond towing, and that other vehicle that's at the rear of that tow truck is the Lexus SUV.
If we could, with the court's permission, zoom in. It's high on the screen, correct?
What's that?
The vehicles are high on the screen as we're
Correct.
looking at it. Could we zoom in to the top left portion of the screen?
Okay.
Can we play this video?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you see what's depicted in the still image of that video right now?
I can.
I'm going to ask you if you'll turn to your right, concentrate on this area. This area here. Do you see what's depicted in that still image?
I do.
Does that appear to be a taillight?
Yes.
Does it look clear? Does it look like it's shining red?
Looks clear.
The portion that is intact, does that appear to be brighter red?
Correct.
And the photograph that I just showed you a second ago, is that red portion there?
Can you rephrase that?
Sure. Let's go back. You see the red?
Yes.
Is that the condition of the taillight as you saw it on January 29th around 3:15 to 3:30 when you got to the location?
It was.
Let's go back to the other exhibit, please. Exhibit 13. Can we zoom in, please? Can you see that this entire area is now missing?
I can.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
Sure. The area that I'm circling here, do you see any red lens in that area?
No.
Is that consistent, this photograph consistent with the condition of the taillight as you saw it on January 29th, 2022, at just after 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Damn.
Lights, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
How do
Good
you
afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
rehabilitate out of that
Have we met
spank?
before?
We have not.
Do you still work in Guyton?
I do.
At the time you went to the Reed residence, you did not know the occupants?
I did not.
Since then, have you ever met or spoke to William Reed
Nope.
or the defendant?
Nope.
When you went there that day, it was at the request of the state police?
Correct.
When they asked you to come, it's a typical procedure for one law enforcement agency to contact local law enforcement agency?
Correct.
And part of the reason they do that is to bring in separate and independent law enforcement officer to the scene
Yes.
because it's your jurisdiction.
Correct.
And they called you before they got to Mr. Reed's house, didn't they?
Yes.
They told you what they were going to do and when they were going to do it.
Yes.
They didn't just show up at the Reed house and then you found out later. They invited you and informed you what the process was going to be.
I wouldn't say that they told me what the process was going to be.
When you got there, were the troopers already there or did they arrive after you?
The troopers were there.
Were they in the house or outside of the house when you got there?
They were outside in a pickup truck.
Did you see them get out of the pickup truck after you got there?
They got out after I identified themselves.
Did you ever see them approach and touch the rear taillight of the defendant's Lexus?
I did not.
Did you ever see them manipulate in any way that rear taillight of the defendant's Lexus?
I did not.
Did you see them do anything that was suspicious, inordinary, or unfairly remarkable relative to that car?
I did not.
When they spoke to you, they then went inside the house?
What do you mean by spoke to me?
After they introduced you, you introduced yourself to them, they went into the Reed house.
Is this really the only line of questioning he's got? oh, at the time you didn't see them touch it or anything, did you? Well, no, but they've still lied about taking the car away an hour earlier than they actually did. And it's not as if they didn't have plenty of time to do stuff outside of this guy's view. So that line of questioning doesn't really hold up. And I'm assuming that Jackson's going to do something reasonable on redirect.
House?
Yes.
And then they came out.
They came out much later.
And that vehicle was towed.
Correct.
At no time from when you got there until you left did you see anybody from the state police in any way tamper with that vehicle, did you?
I did not.
When the vehicle was towed, do you know how long it
No, I believe that was done after they left. Like, don't get me wrong, that'd get stricken, but it'd be funny.
took to take the vehicle from Dighton back to Canton?
How long?
Yes.
I do not.
You didn't escort it back.
I did not.
You had an opportunity to write a report in this case, didn't you?
I did.
And when you did, you had an opportunity to describe the damage to that taillight in any way you wanted to.
I did.
You could have gone into detail about size of the damage.
I could have.
You could have gone into detail about the shape of the damage.
I could have.
You could have gone into detail about the width of the damage.
I could have.
You could have taken photographs of the damage if you wanted to.
I could have.
In fact, there was no limitation on what you could have written in your report regarding the damage, was there?
It's very clear that the damage was not sufficient enough that he felt the need to take a photograph of it. That goes against you, Brennan. Stop being a dick.
No.
You write reports regularly, don't you?
I do.
You trained at the academy. It's the best way to memorialize events.
Correct.
Because in time, your memory is not always as good later on than it is at the moment.
Correct.
What might be important or remarkable later might not be remarkable at the time you're making the observation.
Correct.
So you're taught at the academy to use as much detail as you can so that you can have an accurate memory later on.
Correct.
Because oftentimes, well, you respond to a number of different events and incidents, don't you?
I do.
You write a lot of reports.
Not necessarily now in this position that I'm in, but
Did you at the time?
at the time, correct.
Yeah. And so it's sometimes difficult to remember the details of all events, and you use the report to refresh your memory.
Correct.
When you wrote your report, and you could have put as much detail as you wanted, is it fair to say you only wrote one single line about the damage to the car?
Correct.
The vehicle had damage to the right rear taillight.
That's what I wrote.
Fair to say you didn't document that it was the size of a dollar bill. You didn't say that, did you?
No.
Or that it was 3 to 6 inches. You didn't mention that, did you?
No.
You didn't mention the placement of where the damage was.
To an extent, I did. The right rear tail light.
Right rear taillight. You didn't indicate if it was on the side or on the back.
I did not.
You didn't provide any other details of the description when your memory was probably at its best. True?
True.
And would you agree that your memory that day was probably much more accurate than it is today?
I would not.
When you wrote the report, did you ever have an opportunity to write a supplement report if you wanted to give more detail?
I guess I could.
You didn't.
I did.
Inevitably, you were a witness at trial. I'm sorry, you were a witness at a prior proceeding in this case, weren't you?
Correct.
You came in and you swore under oath regarding your memory.
Correct.
And that was probably a year to a year and a half after you first made the observations which you reduced in writing in the police report.
Correct.
And when you made those observations, that was on January 29, 2022?
Correct.
When you came into court and you testified, that was on June 10, 2024.
If that was the date.
You were asked questions to use your best memory to describe the damage to that taillight last time you swore under oath to tell the truth, weren't you?
I don't think I was asked that.
What were you asked about to describe the best you could the damage to that right rear taillight last time you were in court on June 10, 2024?
I don't think I was told to describe it in depth.
Would you ask questions about the damage to that rear taillight last time you were in court?
I was.
And when you
Yes,
described
I like did a shit job of it,
the
obviously.
ability to give as much detail as possible,
I did.
did you qualify your memory at that time, saying to the best of my ability and recollection?
I did.
And when you qualify as a police officer with the best ability and recollection, that is recognizing that time had passed,
Time has passed. Yep.
that you had a report, that you could refresh your memory.
Correct.
And did you refresh your memory with that report before you testified last time?
I did.
And when you qualified that it was to the best of your ability and recollection, that account for the fact that when you looked at the report, there was no detail other than your commentary in your report that the vehicle had damage to the right rear taillight.
Correct.
And so when you qualified, you were considering human factors like time had passed,
Correct.
that your report was respectfully scant,
Correct.
but you had heard a lot about this case since that point, hadn't you?
Correct.
And so considering your memory in June of 2024, when you
Oh,
qualified
for
your
God's
answer,
sakes.
was it considering all of those different
That's
factors?
really
that
what you're
impact
going with?
in that?
That he's been influenced by the media?
Can you rephrase that?
Yes. When you decided to qualify your answer, and you said to the best ability and recollection, and then you went on to describe what you remember from the break of the taillight, the reason why you used that qualification to the best ability and recollection, is it because of those human factors that had passed?
I would suppose so.
And sir, since the time you came into court on June 10, 2024, have you spoken to anybody from the defense about this case?
Yes.
How many times have you spoken to somebody from the defense about this case after you gave your testimony on June 10, 2024?
Once.
Where did you speak? Who did you speak to?
Attorney Jackson,
Did you speak to him in person or on the phone?
in person.
Okay, don't. Okay. You're not hesitating, are you?
No.
Where did you speak to him in person?
At his hotel.
How did you know where Attorney Jackson was staying?
He told me.
Did you find it odd to go visit an attorney at their hotel and talk about a case?
It was in their conference
Fuck
room.
off.
Find it odd?
No, that is not unusual in the slightest. When you have to travel and you have to meet with witnesses, I've done that before myself, where I have met with witnesses and potential experts at the hotel because it's convenient and easy for everybody. And yes, generally you would use the business center and the conference room. Honestly, that was a disingenuous answer because I can tell you right now, Brennan will have done that over the years as well. Slimy smunt, honestly.
Odd. Go to somebody's hotel and speak to them about a case.
No.
Without saying the name of the hotel, where was the hotel located?
Boston.
And where were you located?
I don't feel comfortable telling you.
Sorry. Did you have to So you took the effort to go to see Mr. Jackson at his request. Did you know who Mr. Jackson was?
I did.
Did you know on TV?
I did.
When you went there to the hotel in the conference room, who else was there?
Attorney Little.
Okay. Who else?
I'm not
No,
sure
there
of
was
the
nothing
other attorney's
nefarious
name.
about it in the slightest.
What's happening right here on the end?
Honestly, the number of things that he has tried to infer as being nefarious for attorneys to do. I have clients that will only contact me via encrypted messaging services. I've got clients that will only contact me via WhatsApp and WhatsApp Business, and they will only do so if they use deleting messages. So it is up to me to take appropriate and proper file notes so that there is a record of the information. A record. Jesus, now I sound like Brennan. A record of the information that is discussed. It is not nefarious in any way, shape, or form to want to protect professional privilege with your client or with an independent witness.
You're looking one down there on the right?
No, it was not.
Somebody else?
Somebody else.
Okay. Was there anybody else there?
No.
When you were in that conference room, were you shown your police report?
No.
Were you shown your testimony from the last time you came into court?
No.
The photograph of the vehicle in the Sally Port, the vehicle with the missing glass, were you shown that?
No.
Had you ever seen that photo before?
Of course.
And you saw it at the last event you testified at, right?
Correct.
And when you were shown that photo during the prior testimony, you never, ever suggested that that was in any way different than what you had seen in the indictment.
Nobody asked me that.
You were asked to describe the damage, and you were shown that photograph. You never, ever suggested that there was a difference in the damage as you see it in that photo compared to what you remember, did you?
I don't think anybody asked me to describe that.
Did you ever make a note or say anything that is dissimilar to what you remember at the last event that you testified at?
I testified that that was not the taillight the day that I saw it.
That's what you testified at the last event?
Did.
Yes?
Yes.
You said that photo does not depict what you saw?
Correct.
Yes?
Yes.
And when you testified to that at the last event, who was asking you that question?
District Attorney Lally.
Okay. And you remember making that comment under oath?
I do.
Do you remember that as well as your memory about what the taillight looked like back in Dayton?
I do.
Oh, don't answer that.
When you were asked questions about that taillight,
Because now he's going to
you
nitpick
had
and pull out the
described the
transcript.
taillight as not completely damaged. It was cracked, and there was a piece missing, but not completely damaged. Remember that testimony?
I do.
And is that accurate testimony?
It's accurate.
Accurate.
So in your memory, in June 10, 2024, was that vehicle's rear tail light had a piece missing, correct?
Correct.
You said that your memory about the damage to the taillight, as you recall it when you were indicting back on January 29, 2022, you said your memory is as good as your memory that you said in court there was a difference between that photo and the damage, right?
Right.
No, I wouldn't want Spanky knowing where I live either.
Have you ever read your testimony from your last proceeding?
Never.
Wake up and see him hanging from the
But
roof
you
like
have
a
a
bat.
specific memory of discussing that specific photograph. Yes?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm going to show you your transcript of sworn testimony on June 10,
There it is.
2024. And when you reflect on your memory, understanding some time has passed, you've testified that your memory of distinguishing that photo is reflected in your testimony, right?
Objection.
So ask the question differently.
Your memory is that you
Yes, Belanderus. There is selective hearing. It only plays every third chat. Otherwise, I'd be losing my shit all the time. I thought you were aware of that.
discussed the distinction between that photo and what you saw at the last time you testified.
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
Course you will.
Could you show me anywhere in your testimony, anywhere, where you made any statement about that photo being inconsistent with what you saw in Dayton on January 29, 2022?
Oh, made the right call there. Hit the brakes coming over the hill because I was sure there was going to be a pig, 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 piggy! Piggy!
I can put it back on. Thank you. So respectfully, sir,
Okay, well, so for those of you that aren't aware, so that I'm not breaking any laws or anything like that, I have an app on the laptop that I do not see. I cannot see the screen or anything like that, but that I set up before I set off. That reads out every third chat if chat's moving. If it goes slowly, then it will read me various chats, and it always reads out the super chats to me. But no, so I don't hear every single chat that comes through. I'm not guaranteed to hear everything every time. So apologies if I've ever ignored a comment or anything like that. It's just sometimes it's luck of the draw.
your memory about distinguishing that photo is not as you thought it was and claimed it was in this transcript, correct?
Correct.
And that's not a matter of you trying to fool anybody or lying, is it?
No.
No, it's a matter of time passes and memory fades. Yes?
Yes.
And that's one real example why at the academy they teach
Yeah, except half of your witnesses claim that their memories got better with time.
you when you write reports to be as detailed as you can. To accommodate the fact that memories can fade, right?
Correct.
Memories can change.
I know what I saw, and that wasn't it.
Well, that's not what I'm asking you, because you just testified that under oath you had looked at that photo and distinguished it. But that's not accurate, is it?
No.
And so it's not a matter of you hurt
No what?
lying, it's a matter of difficulties with memory, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, correct.
And you share those same difficulties with memory as many other witnesses.
Objection.
Sustained.
You have, as is human nature, difficulties with memory at times, correct?
Correct.
And so that very certain memory you had about your testimony last year, fair to say that never happened. you were simply mistaken, weren't you? Or something more, please tell me.
Correct.
Oh, he really didn't want to have to answer that.
When you met with the attorneys in Boston, what'd you talk about?
It was just a way for them to meet with me and see me face to face, and then ask me how I would be subpoenaed, who would they need to send a court summons to, what my schedule was like coming up in the next months.
Those things all could have been accomplished by phone, correct?
Could have.
So the face-to-face meeting, what did you talk about?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
Over here. What did you talk about?
Excuse me.
So that, okay?
Over here.
Don't really care whether they could meet in face-to-face or whether or not they could talk over the phone at all. All I'm gathering from this is that Brennan really doesn't have the same level of professionalism as some of the other attorneys in this case. But, I mean, we already knew that, didn't we? Sometimes as an attorney, when you're meeting with clients or when you're meeting with witnesses or experts, you give a certain level of courtesy and manners, you know? Yes, it's just a standard like Google voice, so it just sounds like a it sounds like the robot when I have to force the text to speech on the computer.
You told us there was some background about being subpoenaed and time. Subsequently, what did you talk about with the attorneys when you met them at the hotel conference room?
Other than that, they didn't go over my testimony. We just spoke about that I said that the taillight was not completely damaged.
Okay. Did you get into any detail about the conversation, about your testimony today?
No.
When did you meet with them?
I don't have the date.
Last year, this year?
I don't have the date. I don't recall the date.
I'm not looking for a date, just the general year frame. Last year, this year?
Probably June. Early in this year.
Are you having some difficulty with memory about that as well?
On a certain date, yes.
What certain date? Was it this year probably, or do you think you met them this year?
This year.
You know what month you met them this year?
I wouldn't know the month.
Certainly you talked about this issue with the taillight, didn't you?
Yes.
When you talk about the issue with the taillight, did anybody from the defense offer you any opinions or information?
No.
They asked you questions about it?
No.
So you went to a meeting at a Boston hotel in a conference room, and nobody talked about the taillight? Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
Of course you are.
They
Sir,
just-
In an appropriate line of questioning, but of course you are.
Have you had an opportunity to see other evidence of that taillight being damaged that morning before you saw it?
On the 29th of January? No.
The video that was shown to you with the tow truck, had you seen that before today?
Yes.
Who showed it to you?
From seeing it on TV, and
Was it shown to you during your conference room meeting at the hotel?
it was not.
So you looked and studied and watched this case a little bit?
With all due respect, sir, I don't live under a rock. It's all over social media and the news. You can't avoid it.
I'm not criticizing you or discounting you, I'm just asking you. Have you been exposed to this case since you made those observations indicted on January 29, 2022?
I have.
Have you seen other video footage and evidence about that taillight since January 29, 2022?
I have.
Have you seen other information since you last testified last summer about the taillight?
I have.
And seeing this extraneous information, this other information, do you think that played a part in some of your difficult memory?
Objection.
No,
I'm going to allow that.
of course you are.
You approach.
Okay?
Observations back in 2000. Quite a bit of information about this case and the issue regarding the taillight since you first made the observations back in 2022. Wouldn't that be fair to say?
It would be fair to say.
And based on all the additional information you've read and seen, would you agree it's had some effect on your memory?
I guess.
No, I don't want you to guess. You testified that you made explanations at the last trial that you didn't make, right?
Correct.
You had a memory as you testified in direct examination on the road and you tried your best about things that just didn't happen, right?
Right.
Would you agree that you have some difficulty with that?
I'd agree.
I want to show you some
Hey,
evidence
Steph.
on that taillight before you had a chance to see it indictment. If we could have the ring video at 5:07:58, please.
Oh god, which version of this is going to be? Is it going to be the one with a huge change so that they look like the Hulk, or what? Oh, Bev's not going to have to explain jack
You have.
Before you
She's got judicial immunity.
have you seen this on social media?
The news, social media.
Has anybody else shown you this video?
No.
How many times do you think you've been exposed to this video?
Too many to count.
Because you were involved in this case, and I'm going to say as a predicate, there were no orders for you not to look at anything. I'm not suggesting any impropriety. But because you were involved in this case and issues regarding the taillight, do you think you had a particular interest when things like this came on TV and social media to take a look compared to your memory?
Did I have a
Yes.
particular interest? No, I didn't. I didn't follow this case
But you've seen this many, many times.
because of what is out there on social media and the news.
I understand. Who's way this way? Thank you. Stop, please. Do you see that white part of the back rear right taillight?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
Oh my god.
Sir?
Can you zoom in a little bit more? I can.
Can or cannot?
I can.
Can. C-A-N can?
Yes.
Thank you. Continue, please. Continue. Stop.
Actually, I will just take this moment to say, hey, peeps, across all platforms, there's 89 people watching. Maybe just tickle that like button. And if you're new around here, feel free to hit the sub button too. We're going to be doing some interesting things over the weekend because I have a long weekend. I have Monday off. Woo! Sorry, I know it's late for some of you.
Back one. Open, right there. Zoom, please. You see, sir? Sir,
I can see that.
is that consistent with the damage that you saw when you looked at that Lexus indictment hours later?
Consistent.
Can we go to
Main
exhibit
channel,
10,
backup
please?
channel,
And before you
and
show it, I
currently
have a couple
streaming on
questions. This was a snowstorm, kind of like a blizzard that day.
Yes.
So when you got to the driveway, it had not been shoveled or plowed.
Correct.
There was quite a bit of snow accumulating and ongoing.
Yes.
And there was snow coming down on top of everything, the ground, the streets, the cars, correct?
Correct.
And snow was accumulating, did you notice, on cars and packing onto cars?
Yes.
When you looked at this house, when you looked at the defendant's Lexus indictment, you didn't go over and scoop out any of the snow that was in that broken taillight, did you?
I did not.
You didn't try to remove any snow off it or that was accumulated inside of it.
I did not.
And the snow there was snow packed on that car, wasn't there?
There was.
There was snow packed around the light, wasn't it?
There was.
And would you agree with the snow, since you didn't tamper with it or try to remove anything, that could impede your ability to accurately observe the depth of the damage? Would you agree with that?
I would.
If we could have exhibit 10, please.
Damn it, this guy
Does that
was
appear
so
to be
confident when he
the
got on
same
the
Lexus you
stand.
looked at when it was indicted? And it's a far view, so I don't want you to guess if you're not sure you can.
No, I'm not currently streaming on Twitch or Rumble. Rumble mainly because there's still issues with the API using StreamYard. Twitch, I just haven't really got around to fixing it. But definitely currently on the main channel, backup channel, and going out on X. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Nick.
Tell me.
I wouldn't be able to tell you. I can't.
Exhibit 11, please. Can you take a look to the right? You see that right tail light, the white part?
I can.
Missing. Yes?
You guys have been looking at my chin this whole time.
Looks like snow is packed on it.
Does it look like there's a right tail light there?
Does not.
This is before you saw the car indictment. Do you know that or you wouldn't know that?
That doesn't look like the Reed's driveway.
Do you know if this photograph was taken before or after you made your observations indictment?
I do not.
the right rear tail light and the missing parts of it, is that consistent with what you saw around 3:27 on January 29, 2022?
Yes.
I'd stream on Kick, but when I do that,
Have
I
no
see
further
more
questions.
trolls than usual.
Okay. Lights on, please, Mr.
Thank
Jackson.
you, Your Honor. I'll be brief. Sergeant, did you celebrate your birthday 2 years ago?
I did.
Kind of a big deal. It's your birthday, right?
Yes.
What day of the week was your birthday 2 years ago?
No idea.
You have a difficult memory, sir.
Yes.
The fact that you had a birthday, you recall, correct?
Correct.
The day of the week of that birthday may fall by the wayside in your mind, right?
Right.
Sustained as to the form, Mr. Jackson, is
Of
your
course.
witness.
The fact that you can't remember the day of the week, does that mean that you have a bad memory?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
Correct.
You remember being in Dighton, correct? Being called out to Dighton to the residence of the Reeds.
Correct.
Do you remember the time?
I do.
Do you remember the weather?
I do.
Do you remember who you met there?
I do.
Do you remember the conversations that you had?
I do.
Do you remember the phone calls that you received?
I do.
The first one?
I do.
The second one?
I do.
Do you remember being in the garage and speaking with someone?
I do.
Do you remember this lady, pretty lady right here in the blue?
I do.
Do you remember meeting Mr. Reed?
Briefly.
Handsome gentleman with the gold tie?
I do.
You remember all that? Right?
Mhm.
Do you remember the SUV?
I do.
Do you remember the condition of the taillight?
I do.
You were asked whether or not you saw Trooper Proctor in any way manipulate that right rear taillight while it was out at Dighton while you were there, correct?
Correct.
You said no. Honestly, I never saw him touch it, right?
Correct.
Were you in the Sally Port in Canton PD? I'm sorry, in Canton, in the Sally Port at the police station
I wasn't.
at 5:30 p.m.?
Objection.
Sustained.
At any point, did you ever go to the Sally Port at Canton PD that day?
I did not.
Do you have any idea what did or didn't happen inside the Sally Port?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were asked by Mr. Brennan, you could have taken photos had you wanted to, correct?
Correct.
And certainly you could have, right?
Correct.
Was that your vehicle that was being seized?
No.
You were simply there to assist another officer, right?
Objection.
The form, Mr. Jackson.
Of course. What were you there to do?
Just to assist another agency.
Would it have been normal protocol for you to photograph that vehicle?
No.
Did you see Trooper Proctor photograph the vehicle?
No.
Did you see Sergeant Buchanan photograph the vehicle?
No.
Well played, Jackson.
By the way, you and I did meet once before, correct?
Correct.
Was that before or after you testified last year at another hearing?
After.
And you were called by whom last year at the other hearing? The defense or the Commonwealth?
The Commonwealth.
You testified for them?
Correct.
Objection. Move to strike.
So that's stricken. It's beyond the scope.
Don't know that I agree with that, but okay,
Did-
Bev.
The Commonwealth ever contact you after your testimony at the hearing last year?
They did not.
Did they ever
No,
call
because I
you?
wouldn't want his
on the
testimony
telephone?
again.
After?
Correct.
No.
Did they ever send you a subpoena?
No.
And you testified last year that the taillight was cracked but not, or damaged but not completely broken, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You and I met in a hotel in a conference room, correct?
Correct.
Anything sketchy or nefarious about that?
No.
Did I introduce myself to you?
You did.
You happen to know I live in Los Angeles?
Correct.
I don't have a house, right?
Correct.
I don't have an office out here, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know whether or not I have an office?
I do not.
Do you remember me asking you if you would mind meeting at a hotel where I was staying in a conference room?
I do.
Okay. Do you have any problem with that?
Nope.
Do you find that unusual?
No.
Did you
Bring
and
it
I
on,
ever
Jack.
speak, ever, before your testimony last year?
No.
Did I ever tell you how I wanted you to testify?
No.
Did I ever tell you what to say?
No.
Did I show you any testimony?
No.
Did I play you any video?
No.
Did I show you a single photograph?
No.
During that conversation, did you tell me how to subpoena you?
I did.
Did you tell me where the subpoena should be directed?
I did.
Did you tell me your vacation schedule?
I did.
Did you tell me your availability and willingness to testify?
I did.
Did we talk about any other thing of substance other than that and whether or not you recalled what your testimony was from last year?
That was all we talked about.
As you sit here, Sergeant Barrows, Do you have any difficulty recalling what the condition of that taillight was on January 29th, 2022, at about 3 or 3:15 in the afternoon when you saw the vehicle? Any
No.
difficulty whatsoever?
No.
You remember the condition of that taillight?
I do.
Was the condition of that taillight the same as the photo that I showed you on my direct examination? No. That's all.
I know, amazing, right? All of a sudden,
You would agree
someone
that
that
your
has
memory
no connection to
has
Canton
changed
whatsoever.
since last time you testified in this courthouse.
Yes.
In the photo I showed you, the close-up with the missing right rear taillight, is that consistent with your memory of what you saw in Dayton on January 29, 2022?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it. It's opened
That's
up.
not evidence.
It was opened up.
Is it consistent with what you saw on January 29, 2022?
It is.
Thank you.
All right, Sergeant, you are all set. sir.
Thank you.
All right, so jurors, I know I need to talk to the lawyers about a couple of things, so this seems like a good spot to just send you home for the day rather than bringing out witnesses. So those same cautions, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know, and be careful with your social media. Remember, tomorrow's a half a day, we'll finish by 1. Okay?
All rise for the court, please. Closing nobles to follow me.
All right, so, I mean, have we got sidebar or have we got motions? In which case, I'll try and skip ahead to the next day. Try and get that underway. Taco Tuesday. See, I'm not going to say that I'm not disappointed by how that witness was handled. I do think Jackson probably could have done a little bit better rehabilitation or redirect, but he did a good job. Alright, so hopefully that should open up fairly close to the next stream if it hasn't already. No, Megan, but I'm still a half a day behind, so I'm in two minds about whether or not I try and do today live or not. In which case I should really get home and have a sleep. Damn it, how much sidebar is there?
And Tim.
Oh, too far.
Yes, I did.
Affirmatively, did any independent research or investigation into this case? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see? So is there a new witness this morning?
Yes. Good morning, Your Honor.
Cross Road, absolutely.
Okay.
Already passed multiple kangaroos on the side of the road. We occasionally get a koala. Haven't seen a wombat in a little while.
So you're gonna step up, face the clerk, and raise your right hand.
You solemnly swear the evidence given to the court during the case now here is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is this a snowplow driver?
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Good morning, sir. In a good loud voice, would you please state your name and spell your last name?
Sure, it's Brian Loughran, Loughran.
In what town do you live, sir?
I live in Canton.
Where did you grow up?
In Canton.
How long have you lived in Canton?
All my life.
Did you attend Canton Public Schools?
Yes, I did.
Through which grade?
I graduated from Canton High School,
What year did you graduate?
1990.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes,
How many?
I have two brothers, one sister.
What are their names?
Christopher, Michelle, and Michael.
And where do you fit in the order?
I fit in
because I just want to say, I mean, I've seen some posts and it actually makes sense. I genuinely believe that if it is a conspiracy that the McAlberts were trying to make sure that they don't go down for murder, if Karen hadn't woken up and freaked out that John wasn't there, I agree that this is the guy that they probably would have tried to pin it on. They probably would have made it. They would have tried to make it look like he's the one that hit him with a snowplow. Sorry, I had to listen to Grifter's chat then. I agree. The people that are not supportive of Australia and our national pride can go to work on Monday. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Between Michelle and Michael.
You're the second youngest.
Correct.
How old is your brother Michael?
Michael is 53.
What does he do for work?
He owns his own driving school, and he was a member of the select board.
And you say he owns his own driving school. In which town?
Canton.
And you mentioned that he's a member of the select board for which town?
Town of Canton.
And what is the select board in Canton?
It's the governing body for the town.
Having grown up in Canton, are you familiar with the Albert brothers?
Yes, I am.
Which ones?
All of them.
Can you name them?
Brian, Chris,
Larry,
Brendan,
Moe, and Curly.
Keith, Kevin, and Tim.
Of those Albert brothers, whom do you know the best?
Chris.
How close in age are Chris and you?
Very close. I believe I'm 2 years older than Chris.
How did you become familiar with Chris?
I went to elementary school, I went to middle school, and then he graduated from a different high school.
Was there any other relationship between the two of you beyond being classmates?
Yes, eventually I ended up working for Chris, delivering pizzas.
How old were you approximately when you started delivering pizzas for Chris Albert?
About 26.
Do you remember the name of his pizza establishment?
Yes, D&E Pizza.
Where is that located?
Canton Center.
How many years did you deliver pizzas for D&E Pizza and Chris Albert?
About 8 years.
Prior to January 29th of 2022, were you friendly with Chris Albert?
Yes.
You previously mentioned that your brother Michael is a town selectman. What political office does Chris Albert hold?
Chris Albert is also a select board member.
And Chris Albert is Brian Albert's brother, obviously.
Yes.
So your brother and Brian Albert's brother are both town selectmen together.
Correct.
How did you become familiar with Kevin Albert?
Through D&E Pizza and
And I'm sorry, you said through D&E Pizza?
Yes. And interactions with the DPW doing details and stuff.
Okay. First, with regard to D&E Pizza, you said there were interactions with Kevin Albert relating to that pizza shop. What type of interactions?
He would come in, I'd be, friendly. I'd say hello, or there'd be deliveries to the Albert's residents, and I would, make those deliveries.
You mentioned the DPW. I didn't ask you what you did for work, sir. What do you do?
I work for the DPW. I work in the highway division.
And the DPW stands for Department of Public Works?
Yes.
For which town?
Town of Canton.
And what are your duties, or strike that, around January and late January of 2022, what were your duties for the DPW?
I would plow.
And how long had you worked, to this day, how long have you worked for the DPW?
20 years.
Now, as a DPW employee, how much contact do you have with the police department?
We have varying jobs that require police details.
So you're doing work and there has to be a police officer there to oversee and direct traffic and things of that nature?
Correct.
How often have you worked in that capacity with Kevin Albert from the Canton Police Department?
About a dozen times.
And what was the nature of your relationship with Kevin Albert before January 29th of 2022?
Through D&E Pizza, I would, the Alberts usually had family functions on a weekend, and I would make deliveries.
Can these last few jurors hear the witness? I just want to make sure everybody can hear. Okay. Now, what was how did you become familiar with Brian Albert?
Again, through D&E Pizzas and deliveries.
I'm hoping to come back to the US at some point.
To his residence.
Be at least a
Do you know
couple of
what
years.
his residence is or what the address is?
I do.
What is it?
34 Fairview Drive.
What was your understanding of what Brian Albert did for a living?
My understanding, he was a police officer for the city of Boston.
Now, you say that you made deliveries to 34 Fairview Road. how often, and was there a particular day of the week that you delivered more than others?
It's usually once a week, and it was usually on Sundays.
And that was 234 Fairview Road?
Correct.
As of January of 2022, how many decades had the Albert family lived at that address, if you know?
As far as I couldn't give you a year, but I know as long as I've been in Canton, they've lived at that residence.
All right, now directing your attention to January 28th and 29th of 2022, were you on duty as a snowplow driver that night and early morning?
Yes.
When did you
That's fair
learn
enough,
that you would be on duty?
Early January 28th, we were notified that we had a 2:30 start time.
And that would be 2:30 a.m.
A.M.
on January 29th?
Yes.
How did you learn that you would be on duty?
Our supervisors for the DPW would notify us.
Who was your supervisor?
William Walsh.
And what instructions were you given in terms of when you were to report?
We were to report at 2:30 in the morning and prepare our trucks for plowing.
What time did you actually get to the DPW that morning?
I got there about 2:15.
And when you say you got there, where did you go?
160 Bolivar Street.
And is that Bolivar?
Yes.
What is 160 Bolivar Street?
It is the DPW garage.
And when you go there, is there a requirement that you punch in?
Yes.
Did you punch in those early morning hours?
Yes.
Who was there when you got there?
Other DPW employees and William Walsh.
William Walsh being your supervisor?
Yes.
Were you assigned a specific route those early morning hours?
Yes.
What route was that?
Route 11.
What streets does Route 11 encompass?
Route 11 encompasses Cedar Crest from Dedham Street to the end. It encompasses everything from Kings Road to Chapman Street.
And streets in between as well?
Yes.
And what street is in between Cedar Crest and Chapman?
There would be Spring Lane and Fairview.
What truck or snowplow were you assigned in those early morning hours?
I was assigned truck 30.
And does that have a particular nickname?
Yes, it's considered a Franken truck.
You said Franken truck.
Franken truck.
Yes.
Like Frankenstein.
Yes.
Why was it nicknamed Franken truck?
It was a very uncomfortable truck, and it had a lot of mismatch of parts to make it more convenient for the drivers.
Okay, I'd like to show you some photos, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Plow, that's my name. That name again is Mr. Plow.
Mr. Loughran, I've placed 4 photographs in front of you. If you could just familiarize yourself with them and look up at me when you're done.
Oh, there's a circus
Do you
coming down.
recognize what is depicted in those photos?
Yes, I do.
And did you take those photos
I did.
at my request?
Yes.
What do those photos depict?
They depict the inside of truck 30 or Franken truck.
And is there one that actually depicts the outside from the front as well?
Yes.
Do
Yes.
those photos fairly and accurately depict Franken truck as it looked on or about January 29th of 2022?
Yes.
I would offer those, Your Honor.
I have no objection to any of the photos.
All right, thank you.
Franken
House
truck.
Be marked with the next exhibit number 8 through D.
Yes. And once that's done, you can feel free to publish.
Thank you very much.
It reminds me of my beast laptop that I had in high school. That thing was cobbled together from various different laptops. There was exposed wiring. I had to boot it off of a hard drive, like a USB hard drive as opposed to an internal drive. God, I had so much fun with that thing.
Exhibits 211A through 211D.
Thank you. With the court's permission, Mr. Wolf, if you would publish them one at a time in the order we discussed. I imagine that is 211A, Madam Court Reporter.
Ms. Gianetti, why don't you take the photo so you'll know what they
Oh,
are?
great idea. Okay, could you explain what 211A depicts to this jury?
That is the front of truck 30 Franken truck.
Whoa,
And it's
that's a log
depicting
truck.
the 2 mirrors on the
That's some Final
right and
Destination
left side
shit
of the fenders.
Okay.
You know what? I'm just
What
going to stay in the
about-
fast lane.
The next one,
Life
please.
in the fast
Can
lane.
you identify, this is 211B, sir.
Yes, that's the inside of the Franken truck looking out the windshield.
As if you were seated in the driver's seat?
Correct.
Next photo, please. This is 211C. What does this depict?
This is depicting on the range that I would see seated in the front seat, looking out the windshield, and depicting how much I'll be able to see.
Okay, and this would be more toward the left side in front of you as you're seated in the driver's seat?
Correct.
All right, next photo, please. This is 211D. Could you explain this to the jury?
Again, I'm sitting in the front seat of the Franken truck, and I'm taking a picture out the right side of the windshield, again, depicting on how much I can see out it.
Thank you. Okay, we can take those down and put the lights on. Okay, so you previously testified that you got to the garage about 2:15 a.m. on January 29th. Could you explain to the jury, what do you do when you get there at 2:15 a.m.?
So at 2:15, we do a simple circle check to make sure that there are no defects with the truck. We go ahead and we make sure it has plenty of diesel. And then I put, any supplies that I may have for the night, planning on an overnight shift. And then I get in the truck and I proceed to my route.
And what type of supplies are you talking about, sir?
Any types of drinks, food, anything, snacks.
Preparing for a long night?
Yes.
The circle check, does that mean what it sounds like, where you sort of take a circle around the vehicle?
Yes, we're trying to make sure that the truck is safe, that there is no defects that would hinder the job ahead of it of being able to plow.
And when you did the circle check in those early morning hours, was there anything unusual that you found?
None.
Were you comfortable driving the snowplow that night?
Yes.
And you mentioned that you make sure it's filled with diesel fuel so you're good for the night.
Correct.
Now, what lighting is there on the truck facing outward?
I have 4 lights. I have the initial headlights, and then I have 2 plow lights that are on either side of the fenders. And then I have marking lights, and then I have work lights in the back for the sander.
Okay. If you recall the one photo that showed the truck from the outside, were the 2 plow lights visible in that photo?
Yes, they were.
Were the headlights visible in that photo?
Yes, they were.
Could we display that one more time, Your Honor, to have them point that out? Is there a pointer there, sir?
No, there is not.
Okay. Could you describe on 211A where those plow lights are?
Plow lights are just above the grill on the right side and left side.
Okay. And would it be fair to say the plow lights appear to be a clear lens and then an orange lens on either side?
Yes.
And the headlights, sir, where are those located?
They are to the right and left of the grill, and they're underneath.
I'm not allowed to have a crush on any of them, so I have a professional respect for Jackson Unetti and Alessi. Maybe a little crush on Miss Little, but I don't know. I haven't seen her in a long time. I don't know.
Okay. And those are located just to the right of the grill in terms of as we're looking at 211A?
Yes.
Okay. We can take that down and put the lights back on. Now, do you recall whether or not, strike that. You also mentioned marking lights. Where are those?
Marking lights are on the top of my truck.
Oh my God, Dazzer, I don't know if you can see it, but the private inside joke, people. That license plate on that four-wheel drive in front of me was G24. Yeet!
Truck, along with the beacon light on top of the truck.
And what is a beacon light?
Beacon light is exactly what it looks like. It's a light that just illuminates and it goes around in circles.
And the marking lights, what do they do?
They're similar to driving without your headlights. They're just there to mark the truck so that it's more visible for residents who may be driving and not paying attention.
And where does the lighting face those marking lights?
Front.
Okay, so in terms of the light that strictly goes toward the front, you have marking lights, plow lights, and headlights, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall whether, when you did your circle check, you checked out whether those lights were all working?
Correct.
And were they working?
Yes.
When all of those lights are on, how bright is it in front of your truck?
Extremely bright, almost as if I had a spotlight.
And that's facing straight out?
Correct.
What about facing diagonally out front?
Again, as far as the lights will illuminate.
And then on either side, directly out to the side, how far can you see?
About 5-6 feet.
Okay. So you see more when you're looking straight out and then diagonally out, correct?
Correct.
You can see farther?
Correct.
Now, how about in terms of you being situated in the vehicle? How high up is the driver's seat?
Driver's seat is an air ride seat, so it can adjust accordingly.
What is an air ride seat?
It is adjusted by air, and it can go up or down depending on the driver's.
And how long did it take you to do the circle check, to put your snacks in the car and water, and to make sure the car or the truck is filled with diesel fuel?
About 5 minutes.
All right, so if you get there at 2:15, is it fair to say that you're ready to go on the road somewhere around 2:20 or 2:25 a.m.?
Correct.
And when you did start to go out on the road at around that time, how was the seat adjusted?
I adjusted the seat up so that my knees would hit the bottom of the steering wheel.
How big is that steering wheel on the truck?
It's fairly large. It's larger than a regular passenger vehicle. It's very large.
As of January 29th of 2022, were there any obstructions on any part of the windshield that would prevent you from having a clear view in any direction through the windshield?
No.
Once you got into that truck in those early morning hours, how far could you see in front of your truck?
As far as my eyes would let me see.
And how far could you see diagonally?
Diagonally, probably, again, as far as my eyes would let me see.
All right. Now, you get on the road. When you plow, is there a particular method that you use?
Yes.
Describe that.
I start in the middle of the road and work to the right, angling the plow to the right.
Are you familiar with the term ring row right?
Yes.
Could you explain that to the jury, please?
Sure. Ring row to the right is the amount of snow that's coming off the plow, creating a row. We angle everything to the right so that it does not impede on traffic on the left.
Right. So if you had gone in the other direction, you'd be putting snow right in the opposite lane of travel, right?
Correct.
So you always go to the right.
Correct.
What part of the road, once you hit the roads, do you plow first? What part of the road?
I start at the yellow line and I work to the curb line.
Why do you plow the middle of the road first?
Again, I want to ring road to the right, and I want to be able to give a bigger swath of space for first responders.
And generally, after going up a street or a road that you plow, when do you come back down the same street?
Immediately after I'm done.
Now, you mentioned Route 11, your route that night. You mentioned that it takes you to Cedar Crest.
Correct.
Once you leave the DPW garage to go on your route, Route 11, how long does it take you to get to any part of Cedar Crest?
About 10 minutes.
May we display actually, it's Exhibit 49. Do we have access to Exhibit 49?
What is it? Is it?
It's just a map.
Okay.
And if we can't put our hands on it quickly, I can just display it on the screen.
Is it in evidence?
It is.
You can put.
Okay,
it on the
thank you,
screen.
Ron. If you put up Exhibit 49 and maybe zoom in so we just see, well, I think it is as zoomed in as it's going to go. Is that true, Mr. Wilk, to get okay. Maybe zoom in on the top part of the map, if you would. Perfect. All right. So are you able to see that map from where you are?
Yes, I can.
And by the way, do you wear corrective lenses?
Yes, I do.
What do you wear?
I wear glasses, and when it's inclement weather, I wear contacts.
So on the night in question, when you went out on your route that night, were you wearing glasses or contacts?
Contacts.
What are you wearing today?
Contacts.
You've testified in a prior proceeding regarding this matter last year, correct?
Yes.
What did you show up with that day?
Glasses.
And what's your difference? What is the difference in your ability to see the screen with your glasses or your contacts?
My contacts makes things a little bit more brighter, allowing my eyes to see better.
You have
with
more
the
difficulty
contacts.
seeing distances with your glasses?
Correct.
All right. Any problem seeing that screen here today?
None.
All right. What does that depict?
That depicts my route: Cedar Crest, Dew Lane, Spring Lane, and I'm not able to read the one underneath Spring Lane. Just
certainly, it's a portion of your route, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now you see where it says Cedar Crest, right?
Yes.
And you see the red dot there.
Yes.
Does that red dot refresh your memory or orient you, I should say, as to what road that red dot is on?
Yes.
And what road is that?
That would be Fairview.
All right. Now, when you hit Cedar Crest Road, are you in that area of Cedar Crest or are you in a different area of Cedar Crest when you first come upon Cedar Crest Road?
When I first come on, I'm coming in at the beginning of Cedar Crest, which is at Dedham Street in Cedar Crest.
Okay. And how long a road is Cedar Crest before you get to the area of Exhibit 49?
I would say that's about a mile and a half.
And how long does it take you to plow Cedar Crest before you get to this area on January 29th of 2022?
About 10 minutes.
All right. How much of that 1.5 or so stretch of road did you plow when you first encountered it?
I plowed the entire street.
If we could
I bet
zoom
the
out.
ladies were happy.
All right. And when you're driving on Cedar Crest Road, are you driving toward that red, Fairview Road that you've identified?
Yep.
Coming in from the right portion of the map or the left portion of the map?
I'm coming from the right side of the map.
All right. And so you start about 1.5 miles down the road to the right, which is off this map, correct?
Correct.
And you say it takes you about 10 minutes to get to the area of Fairview.
Yes.
So would Fairview be on your right or your left when you first encounter it?
On my left.
And when you hit Fairview Road that first time, what do you do?
I go all the way to the very end of Cedar Crest, turn around in the cul-de-sac, and then head back up towards Fairview.
Okay, so you're passing Fairview on your left,
Yes.
plowing further, and then turning around and plowing back.
Yes.
And when you came back to the intersection of Cedar Crest and Fairview, what did you do?
I take a right.
And how familiar were you with 34 Fairview Road on that day?
Very, very familiar.
Having delivered pizzas there for years?
And then having grown up in that neighborhood.
Were you friendly with the Alberts growing up?
Mostly with Chris, but I was cordial with the boys.
All right. And when you entered Fairview Road from Cedar Crest for the first time on your route, would 34 Fairview be on your right or your left?
On my right.
And can you give the jury your best estimate of when or what time was it when you first encountered 34 Fairview Road on January 29th of 2022?
About 2:40, 2:45.
That would be AM?
AM.
And when you were passing 34 Fairview Road or encountering it at that point, what did you know about who lived there?
I knew the Alberts lived there, and I knew that Brian Albert was a police officer, first responders.
Now, aside from the lighting on your truck, were you aware of whether there were any streetlights in the area of 34 Fairview?
Yes.
Could you describe those?
Sure. There's one before you get to 34 Fairview driveway, and there's one after Fairview's driveway.
Do you have a memory as to whether or not those streetlights were working on January 29th of 2022?
I do not have a memory of that.
But in any case, how much of the lighting of your Franken truck was illuminated at that time?
All my lights were working.
So you're now driving up Fairview Road, and 34 Fairview's on your right, taking into account the lighting conditions that existed, especially on your truck. How much of the front lawn of 34 Fairview could you see?
I could see all the way to the front door.
What obstructions were there at the time when you first passed the Alberts residence?
None.
Were you familiar with the area of the flagpole on the left side of the property?
Yes.
Now, when you are plowing, sir, where is your attention focused?
My attention is focused on the front window, to the right and to the left.
Why?
I am looking for pedestrians. I'm looking for residents that may be backing out, not aware that I'm there, and God forbid, animals.
How much of the time that you're plowing are you scanning the road?
All the time.
Now, as you were passing 34 Fairview, could you see the area of the flagpole at 2:45 in the morning, sir?
Yes.
What was on the ground on the Alberts lawn at that point in the area of the flagpole?
Nothing.
Did you see a 6'1", 216-pound man lying on that lawn?
No.
Now, after plowing Fairview with the Alberts residence to your right, what do you do?
I go to the very end, take a left on the Chapman Street, back down Chapman Street, and then take a left back onto Fairview.
And are you plowing the whole time?
Yes.
So you get to, in this diagram, Exhibit 49, we don't have to turn the lights off. I think we can see it. You're traveling in a down direction, correct?
Correct.
And you would hit Chapman Street. Is that fair to say that's at the bottom?
Correct.
You do some type of three-point turn and go back down Fairview?
Yes.
How long does it take you to get from 34 Fairview the first time to get to Chapman Street?
Maybe 5-10 minutes.
And then how long does it take you to get from Chapman Street back down so that you're now passing 34 Fairview again?
Again, about 5-10 minutes.
And when you're coming back down, what side of the road is 34 Fairview?
On my left.
When you pass 34 Fairview at that time, are there any obstructions preventing you from seeing the front lawn?
None.
Was there any difference in the lighting on your truck when you were coming back down?
No.
Where is your attention focused when you're passing 34 Fairview on your left?
Again, out the front, right and left.
And how much of that front lawn are you able to see on 34 Fairview when you're coming back down from Chapman?
I can see everything. I can see right up to the front door.
What did you see on the front lawn of 34 Fairview on January 29th of 2022 when you're making the second pass by 34 Fairview in the area of the flagpole?
I saw nothing.
All right. Now, you've made an up and down pass, sir, correct?
Yes.
Once you pass 34 Fairview for that first up and down pass, where do you go?
I then go do Spring Lane, and I do that top and bottom.
And is there a point in time when you come back to the area of Fairview Road?
Yes.
That second time now that you're coming back, I'm counting the up and down pass as the first time.
Okay.
You with me?
Yep.
That second time now that you're coming back, about how long is it after the first time?
About 45 minutes.
So now it's about what time that you're coming for the second time to this area?
3:30.
And when you come back to the area of Fairview Road, the second time, are you on the Cedar Crest side, which is on the top of Exhibit 49, or the Chapman side, which is on the bottom of Exhibit 49?
I'm on the Cedar Crest side.
And when you approach it from the Cedar Crest side, are you approaching from the same direction that you did for the first time up and down pass, or a different direction?
Same direction.
All right, so you're now coming down Cedar Crest again, correct?
Correct.
Fairview's on your left.
Yes.
Did you take that left, or did you do something else?
I did not take the left. At that point, I could have taken the left. I can make a decision depending on how much snow there was on the ground. I ended up going all the way to the end as if the first time.
All right, and you did your same turnaround in the cul-de-sac?
Correct.
And now you're approaching the intersection of Cedar Crest and Fairview again, correct?
Yes.
What do?
I take the right onto Fairview.
How was the weather at 3:30 in the morning when you're now in that area of Fairview and Cedar Crest?
It's snowing fairly hard now.
Do you recall how much snow was on the ground at that point?
Maybe 2-3 inches.
And at about 3:30 in the morning, how far could you see in front of you? Again, straight and diagonally in front of you.
As far as my eyes would let me see.
As a result of the lighting on your truck?
Correct.
Now, you take the right onto Fairview. Describe to the jury what you see in the road at that point.
As I make my right onto Fairview, I notice that there's a vehicle on the right-hand side roughly in the area of the flagpole in front of 34 Fairview.
Okay. And did you make note of what type of vehicle that was?
Yes.
What type of vehicle was that?
A Ford Edge.
Interesting.
What direction was that vehicle parked when you saw it?
It was parked nose going up Fairview.
Toward Chapman?
Yes.
So you're coming up from behind it?
Correct.
You see the rear of that vehicle?
Yes.
And was it parked adjacent to the Albert property, or was it across the street from the Albert property?
Adjacent to the Albert family.
And how close to the area of the flagpole was that Ford Edge parked at 3:30 in the morning?
I can't give you an exact measurement, but looking at the front door, it was about 3 feet to the left of the front door in the area of the flagpole. So in between the front door and the flagpole.
Now, what caused you to remember that there was a Ford Edge?
So theoretically, if there had been a dead guy on the front lawn, whoever was driving the Ford Edge would have seen them. Theoretically.
Parked at 3:30 outside the Albert's residence that night.
For as long as I can remember, they have never parked a vehicle in front of their house. They've always had enough ample parking in the driveway.
What policies or protocols of the DPW are in force when vehicles are parked on the street or the road during a snow emergency?
There is no parking allowed. We are supposed to notify our supervisor when there's a vehicle in the way. At that point, the supervisor will make attempt to call the resident or have the police show up at the resident. And then if they can't get the car removed, the car gets towed.
Sir, did you follow protocol that night?
I did not.
Why not?
Oh shit, why not?
Knowing the Albert family, knowing that there was a first responder, I gave them respect and opted not to follow procedures.
How did the presence of that Ford Edge parked on the side of the road affect your direction of travel?
I had to go around the vehicle.
How
That's
did
not
you maneuver
right.
around it?
I had to maneuver to the left, go up, and then maneuver back right into my lane, and then continue up Fairview.
And at any point when you were maneuvering to the left and then angling back to the right, could you see part of the front lawn of the Alberts?
Yes.
Were you able to see any part of the area around the flagpole?
Yes, as I maneuvered back right.
And when you maneuvered back right and saw that area, what, if anything, did you see on the ground in the area of the flagpole?
I saw nothing.
All right. So now you've passed 34 Fairview again. Where do you go?
I go back to the top of Chapman, and again, I do a left and a right and head back down Fairview.
Another 3-point turn.
Correct.
So now you're doing your second up and down, correct?
Correct.
All right. So you then enter Fairview again, coming back down from Chapman.
Yeah,
And,
lefty.
how long does it take you to get back down to the area of 34 Fairview?
Again, about 5-10 minutes.
Now, you are now approaching 34 Fairview, and it's on your right or your left this time.
Again, it's on my left.
What, if anything, did you see in the road at that point?
Again, I saw the Ford Edge in the road.
Now it's on your left side?
Yes.
Did it appear to be in the identical position as when you came up the street toward Chapman?
Yes.
How much of the area of the flagpole were you able to see this time as you're coming back down from Chapman?
I was able to, it was obstructed, so I wasn't.
No, I agree with you, Grifter. I think it definitely shows the level of involvement and community deference that are given to the Alberts. I just think that it would have been a significant piece of evidence had he actually followed procedure, because it would have been record of the court.
I wasn't able to see as much as the first time, but I was still able to see the flagpole.
What did you see on the ground in the area of the flagpole at now 3:35, 3:40 in the morning?
Nothing.
I saw nothing.
All right, so now you've done your second up and down pass, correct?
Correct.
Where do you go?
I go back out on the Cedar Crest, and I continue to do the rest of my route.
Now, at this point in time, did you do more of your route or spend more time away than you did between the first and second time?
I did more of my route staying away from Fairview.
And about how long did it take you before you came back to the area of Fairview Road?
About 3 hours.
So what is your best estimate of this third time that you're now approaching Fairview Road?
About 6:15
And that'd be AM
a.m.
on January 29th?
Yes.
Now, this time when you approached Fairview Road, did you come from the Cedar Crest side or the Chapman side?
I came from Chapman Street side.
And when you turned, did you turn left or right from Chapman Street to get down to Fairview?
I turned right.
And once you turned right, did something unusual happen?
Yes, I noticed there were blue lights behind me, forcing me to pull over to the side of the road.
Did you recognize the vehicles that had, or vehicle? I didn't ask you if there was more than one, but did you recognize what type of vehicle or vehicles there were?
Yes, they were police vehicles.
Which vehicle was traveling more quickly, the police vehicle or Franken truck?
The police vehicles.
What were you doing with your snowplow after the police passed you?
I continued down Fairview.
Coming down Fairview, did you actually lose sight of the police cruiser that had passed
I did.
you? How many side streets are there when you're coming down Fairview from Chapman Street?
3.
What are they?
Wyndham, Old Ridge Hill, and then Carriage Lane.
Now, you're now
Dude
coming
knows his
down
stuff.
Fairview Road. What did you notice ultimately in front of you in the road?
I noticed the police cars had the road blocked off and preventing me from going to Cedar Crest.
And with regard to the lighting on those police,
Well, no, that's just it, Ghosts. I said it earlier. If Karen hadn't woken up and gotten herself involved in all this, I genuinely believe that Lucky would have been the one they would have tried to pin it on, if the conspiracy theory is to be believed. Because the whole setup makes sense. I mean, where they found the shoe, where the tail light only being found a little while later, for example, it fits that they were trying to blame the snowplow driver.
with regard to the lighting on those police vehicles as the road was blocked off, could you describe that for the jury?
Sure, they had all their blue lights on, and they were parked, blocking the road, the entire road. I couldn't get through.
How well lit was it in the area where the police were?
Very well lit.
Probably didn't even know that it was
You're now
lucky.
confronted with a blocked road. What do you do?
I turn around at Carriage Lane, and I continue to do that road, and then I exit Carriage Lane and go to the left.
And going to the left would send you back toward Chapman Street, correct?
Correct.
And once you leave the area of Fairview Road, how long does it take you to come back down to Fairview Road to finish the plowing that you didn't do the first time?
As soon as the police were able to leave the area, I was able to finish that area.
Do you recall what time you finished your shift on January 29th?
I honestly don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
No worries. Do you remember if it was daylight out at that time?
It was daylight.
Okay. Now, sir, in the aftermath of that storm, when was the first time you were approached by anybody connected within this investigation on either side, if you recall?
About 2 weeks.
Who was it that approached you at that time?
His first name is Paul, and he described himself as a private investigator for the defense team.
Prior to hearing from the defense private investigator, had you ever heard from anybody from any police department whatsoever?
No,
Do you know who Michael Proctor is?
Interesting.
I do.
I'll allow that.
And did Michael
Why
Proctor
would you
ever call
object to
you or
that?
contact you at all in those 2 weeks?
No,
Where did the defense investigator approach you, if you recall?
he approached me at my place of work, which was at the Canton Ice Rink, Metropolis Ice Rink.
And what were you doing at the ice rink?
I was operating the Zamboni.
Now,
Man,
without telling
you're
us
gonna
what
get
you
killed
told
by a
them, did you
Zamboni!
speak to the defense investigator?
Yes, I did.
And at some point, did you
Love it.
do something with the defense investigator?
Yes, I met him for a second time at the Kennedy School, and then we both drove my route.
Skipping ahead to the next year, sir, 2023, were you approached by law enforcement officers who were not Canton Police or Massachusetts State Police?
Yes,
Without telling us what you told them, did you speak to them?
yes,
Before speaking to them in 2023, had you ever heard from former Trooper Michael Proctor or anybody from this investigation from the State Police or Canton Police?
no,
At some point, did you hear from the State Police?
yes,
That was after you'd already talked to the defense and to these other law enforcement officers who were not State Police or Canton Police?
yes.
Still having the duck dive, dip dive, and dodge around, but being the FBI involved. And no, I was thinking of Deadpool, but you're right. The Zamboni and
And sir, how clear
Wait, is
is
it
your
Zamboni?
memory about what you saw or didn't see in the early morning hours of January 29th of 2022 in the area of 34 Fairview? The first up and down pass, the second up and down pass, and then the third time you came.
Very strong.
I have no further questions. Thank you, sir.
All right.
hey,
Thank you
Tammy.
very much. It's the exhibit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was a steamroller. Okay.
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Have you and I met before?
No, sir.
This is our first time speaking?
Yes, sir.
Sir, you say that your memory from that night is very strong. Would it be fair to say that before today, you've talked about this case many times?
Yes,
You've interviewed with different law enforcement people as well as civilians and attorneys, haven't you?
correct.
I have not been one of them.
No, you have not.
Is it fair to say that when you've recounted that night as far as times and what you saw, many times your memory has changed? Is that fair to say?
It has not.
You spoke to a private investigator on behalf of the defense shortly after that night.
Yes,
Was that the first time that you spoke to somebody about what you had seen or not seen?
yes,
That is the first time?
yes,
Now he's going to say that
Inevitably,
he was influenced by the
over
defense.
time, you have given statements to at least 4 different people, correct?
correct,
And you've testified in court under oath.
correct.
During the pendency from that night until today, it's fair to say there are many times where you have been intimidated, isn't it?
No,
You've been threatened.
nope,
You were aware, sir, that you were being threatened by an online blogger to expose you.
I was not.
The fuck?
You're saying as you sit here today, you have no awareness in the history of this case that you were being threatened by an online blogger.
I was not threatened by an online blogger.
Was the online blogger threatening or saying that he would expose you and tell personal things about you if you weren't helpful?
He was not threatening.
Let's remove the word threatening. Was the person communicating and making clear to you
that if you didn't testify in a certain way, there would be some consequence to you.
Objection. Can we get a time frame, please?
Anytime from when you first spoke to the private investigator until today, were there communications made to you by an online blogger that there would be consequence to you if you didn't testify in a way that was acceptable to them?
No,
You listened, of course, didn't you, to podcasts that were about you?
I did not.
People told you about them.
Yes, they did.
When friends told you about them, you knew who that person was that was making those claims, correct?
Correct.
You were well aware of the person had a very strong and large social media presence.
I didn't know how large or what his presence were, but yes, I knew he had a blog.
Well, you know now because you follow that blogger now, don't you?
I do follow him, yes.
You pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Did you get one for free?
I did not.
And in following that blogger, you know full well the power that person has to get attention from the community to harass, correct?
Yes.
And so during the pendency of this case, not only were you aware that you were being pressured to testify a certain way, you also knew there'd be consequences if you didn't. Is that true?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
The premise of that question is.
So he can answer.
You knew there was pressure for you to testify a certain way in this case, didn't you?
I did not know I was being required to testify a certain way. I was also at the time dealing with the loss of my wife. I was not paying any attention to any social media.
Sorry for your loss, but you are aware during the pendency of this case that there has been pressure on you to testify in a certain way. Isn't that fair to say?
No.
No.
You received a call from that blogger.
You have to be aware of
I
shit
did.
for it to be
And during
pressuring
that
on
call, did you know the person was recording you?
I did not.
You later learned that the person recorded you.
I did not.
Do you know that your conversations were spread throughout the community online?
I was.
Sir, some of those communications or inquiries were claims that you would be exposed for personal matters if you didn't testify a certain way, weren't they?
No.
Inevitably, you've met this person, haven't you?
I've seen him. I haven't met him.
Have you ever spent time with him?
No, I have not.
Still a follower of that blog.
I am.
When you follow the blog, do you read anything or do you watch it?
No, I don't do much anything towards the blogger.
As you follow it, you can see there are oftentimes articles about you.
No,
Haven't you ever been encouraged to do the right thing?
no,
Haven't you ever been celebrated after you've testified in a way favorable for one side
Yes.
or the other?
yes,
And so when you were being celebrated, that certainly took off any pressure that could be consequence, didn't it?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
When you were celebrated for testifying a certain way, did you find that to be encouraging?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I did find it to be encouraging,
Did
but
you?
I did not want it. I don't think I deserved it. All I was doing was my job and telling the truth.
Did you enjoy the attention that you got?
I did not.
Did you pose in photographs with people who support one side or the other?
I did.
And when you were in those photographs, are you saying that you didn't enjoy the attention that you were receiving?
I did not. Again, I was trying to be
Holy
polite
shit.
and trying to avoid any confrontation that may come from something if I said no.
Well, did anybody from the district attorney's office ever
Suggest they would confront you or punish you if you didn't testify a certain way?
No.
Did anyone from the
How many
defense?
times, how many friends contacted you about what was being said before you testified, the pressure? How many people told you about that?
I couldn't tell you. All my friends were telling me.
So you were hearing a lot of noise or information from your friend group and community about what was being said about you.
Yes.
And this was before you testified at the first trial, sir.
This was before.
Sir, you work hard, don't you?
I do.
You work many different jobs.
I do.
You try to be a good citizen.
I do.
You are not looking for attention.
I am not.
It was brought to you.
It was brought to me.
You wish you never had that attention, don't you?
Yes.
Because you just want to live your life the way you want to live it rather than have people you don't know attacking, criticizing, or intimidating you.
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Could you repeat that, please?
Would it be fair to say that you simply want to live your life the way you've been living it without outside people attacking or pressuring or threatening you?
Yes.
It's because we don't have
June
corn syrup.
15,
If we want to get fat, we use actual sugar.
June 5th, 2023, you were contacted by the defense private investigator, weren't you?
You're
And you may
welcome.
not know the
Thank you for
case.
giving
Were
me
you contacted twice by the private investigator?
I would need to know what time frame we're looking at.
Fair enough. And by the way, the blogger that I speak of, do you know if he is friendly or supports one side over the other?
I know he is friendly towards one side, yes.
Okay. The side sitting in the back of the room?
I would say the defense team.
You've interacted with a private investigator hired by the defense?
Yes.
Have you also interacted with any of the attorneys?
Yes.
Which attorneys have you interacted with?
Mr. Yannetti.
Have you contacted or have you spoken to any other attorneys other than Mr. Yannetti?
Just Mr. Yannetti.
How many times have you spoken to Mr. Yannetti?
Again, what are we talking? First trial, this trial?
The entire time from that night until today. Can you remember how many times that you've
About
spoken?
5 times.
How many times have you gone in to be interviewed by him?
4 times?
During those interviews, were they spaced out over the course of this case?
Yes.
What was the purpose of those interviews?
To go over my testimony.
When you went over testimony, were you ever shown prior testimony?
Yes.
Were you shown prior reports?
No.
Were you shown a prior investigator's report?
Yes.
Were you shown a prior report by a law enforcement agency that is not the state police and not Canton?
Not by Mr. Yannetti. I saw that first document for the first time during the first trial.
When you were discussing your testimony, was there a discussion about the fact that the times that you gave the private investigator were different than the report from that law enforcement agency?
Could you repeat that question, please?
When you were preparing the trial in those meetings, was it brought up, did you discuss that there was a difference in your memory, or at least in the reports, between what you told the defense private investigator and what you told that other law enforcement agency?
No.
Were you aware that there was a difference between the different statements attributed in your memory at the time?
The first trial, yes.
When you were with the defense preparing for trial, did you go over your testimony?
Yes.
Did you go over questions and answers?
Yes.
Were you ever subjected to a make-pretend cross-examination about issues that were important in this case?
No.
Were you ever pointed to any particular issues that were important to talk about in this case?
No.
When you did the questions and answers, were they written down or just conversation?
Can you repeat that one, please? I'm sorry.
When you went through the questions and answers in preparing, practicing for your testimony, were they written down?
So ask you to.
When you were preparing for your testimony, were the questions and answers written down, or was it just speaking?
Just speaking.
Those 4 times that you met, is that a guess, or was it 4 times?
It was about 4 times, yes.
Could it have been more?
No.
And during those 4 times, was there anything different other than going through questions and answers about testimony and preparation? Was there any other subjects you talked about?
There were none.
Did you ever receive any compensation, sir?
I received none.
Do you know whether people were sending you compensation that you didn't receive?
No.
You don't know?
I never received anything.
Were you given anything to bring home with you so that you could remember past testimony or some of the questions and answers that were going to be asked?
No.
How long were your meetings in preparation for your testimony?
About 45 minutes to an hour.
Were they all about the same time or were they different? When you came into court last year, it's fair to say this is after you became aware of essentially being targeted, correct?
You can answer that.
Objection.
Can you answer that, Mr. Lawford?
I can. I don't ever felt like I was being targeted.
This was after you received all the information from your friends and people in the community that you were being attacked.
I'll allow that.
Again, I don't feel like I was being targeted.
Are you concerned after this case what happens with the blogger that you follow?
No.
No.
You talked about your meeting with the private investigator. The first time you met him, do you remember that meeting?
Yes.
Do you remember where you met him?
I met him at my place of employment.
Did you go anywhere with him that day?
No, I did not.
You had a conversation with him and you spoke about what you had remembered from that night?
Yes.
Do you remember when you spoke to that private investigator, you weren't sure how many times you went up and down Fairview that night? That you had said 2 or 3?
No, I told him I went up at 2:30 at 2. I told him at 3:30 I went up 2. Went up and down. And I told him about 3 hours later, I went up and down. I went down and wasn't able to go around the police cruisers and had to turn around at Carriage Lane.
You mentioned that you believe you told the private investigator that you went up and down at 2:30. Do you remember when you spoke to the private investigator, you actually said 3 o'clock?
I don't remember 3 o'clock.
May I approach?
Yes.
Trying to work out what I want to do here, folks. I don't know how much longer Brennan's going to be on cross for, but it's 6:30 and I got to get home. I'm considering whether or not I want to do. I'm thinking I might try and do Friday's testimony live, but that might just kill me. But in order to do that, I need to get through.
And before I
another 2 and a bit hours worth of testimony, less sidebars. So there's probably another hour, maybe hour and a half that I've got to do. So if the trial generally starts at 11, that means I've got to start at 9:30. So in what, 3 hours time? Don't do it live. You'll have to sit through sidebars and lunch breaks. Fair enough. Look, it's a fair call. What I'll do is I'll come back later on tonight. So give me a couple of hours, and I'll come back and finish doing Wednesday. And then at the very least, I'll be able to dump everybody across to a live day, and probably sit in someone's chat and annoy the hell out of them. So, yeah, the mushroom trial I'll be covering once it's over, just because the rules around the courts and that sort of thing. At the moment, if I were to cover the mushroom trial live, all I'd be doing is parroting what the mainstream media are saying at the moment. So I wouldn't be able to give proper in-depth commentary on it. I'm keeping track of all the news stories. I'm keeping track of everything, and I'm going to do an in-depth coverage of it after the fact. So, what's the mushroom trial? Erin Patterson, Patterson. Basically, she allegedly killed her ex-sister-in-law and ex-mother and father-in-law. Her ex-husband was supposed to be at the dinner as well, but he pussied out and decided not to go on the day. Allegedly, she killed them with death cap mushrooms that she baked into a beef Wellington and sprinkled on top. I'm not sure if that's the case or if she's just ridiculously stupid. So, but I plan on doing a fairly in-depth coverage on that. I've got some other lawsuits that are coming up that I'm going to be doing videos on as well. And I'm hoping to do a little bit this weekend to get some actual videos out so that I can... Also, there's other stuff aside from just Karen Reed, so... Have a thumbnail for it with Lego, do I? Anyway. Alright, peeps. I'm going to get out of here, go home, have some dinner, and spend some time with my loved ones. I'll be back in a few hours. Hopefully get this done. Worst case scenario, if I fall asleep and I don't see everybody until tomorrow, at some point in the next 24 hours, I will be finishing this day's worth of stream. Is it bland or boiled meat today? Neither. I had bland chicken last night, which I absolutely adore. No, tonight I'm ordering pizza and pasta, I think. So, all right, people. As always, it's in the Discord. Oh, cheers. As always, please remember you are not a piece of shit. You have value and do contribute very much just for being here, hitting that like button, checking whether or not you're subscribed. And as always, people, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise, and I will catch you all on the flip side. See you all shortly, peeps. God willing.
And again, on your way out, please do me the favor, hit the like and subscribe button if you're so inclined. It costs nothing. It's absolutely free, and we'll be friends forever. Bye now.
Unfortunately, some members of the media
use their platforms to push their own personal bias.
And agenda to control exactly what people think. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.